The metaverse is emerging as the next big technology platform and promises to be the next frontier for human experiences on the internet. Into the Metaverse covers companies, technologies, and trends that are bringing these promises to life. Join creator and host Jonathan Ross-Friedman, founder and CEO of Supersocial, as he interviews the brilliant minds that are building, shaping, and investing in the Metaverse.
Welcome to Into the Metaverse, and it's Yon and Priya here with you again. Priya, so great to have you.
Good to have you here, Yon. You're actually in my neck of the woods in California. It's too bad we're not actually meeting in person.
We need to do it next time in person. It will be so much fun, like in those professional studios.
That's right. That's right. Well, big week, a lot of news to get to. Yon, you have been investing time and energy and work into the metaverse. There was a report out last week that said 90% of metaverse properties have dropped value, significant value. Is that right?
Yes, about 90%, as the report on Yahoo Finance claims, about 90% of the value of metaverse, quote unquote, real estate, virtual real estate, have been decimated essentially. And I think that it's not that surprising given that the hype around NFTs, which is essentially how people have been purchasing virtual land. They've been purchasing them as in the form of an NFT. All of that wave and excitement around NFTs and blockchain-enabled experiences have really dramatically declined. And so it's not surprised that many people probably sold at a loss. Many people potentially forgot about it. And there's obviously less demand. And I, you know what, I think that's okay, because at the end of the day, when I think about the metaverse and I think about what the metaverse is promising, which is these large-scale virtual world that are persistent, always occupied by people 24/7, 365, and avatars and so much content, I've never really understood why would we want to limit the amount of quote-unquote virtual land that exists on the internet. So if you look at a platform like Roblox, for example, there's no limit to how much land you can use on the Roblox platform. Really, you're building an application, you're building a virtual world, and Roblox doesn't charges you money to use that land. Quite the opposite. Roblox as a platform has the incentive to have as much content as possible. That's why they're making their tools available to anyone, from a 15-year-old kid in a bedroom who wants to build a game on Roblox to a professional company or a brand who wants to build a virtual world. And of course, they take their revenue from the monetization that is happening in those experiences that are built. But it's a scaled game, right? They want to see as much content as possible, and we would want to see a lot of content in the metaverse. It's just like the internet. No one said in order for you to open a website, you need to pay money to acquire that website. Sure, you need a domain name and you need to pay for a server, but companies like Squarespace and Wix were born in order to provide you the tools that you can essentially build those things, but you don't have to use those tools. You can also just start a website on your own with a domain that costs you $7.99 per year. And so I think the promise of the metaverse, of having this infinite space, an infinite amount of world and content that we can engage and interact with, goes exactly against sort of the promise of I'm going to acquire virtual land. And I never really understood and still struggled with the notion of why would we mimic how we operate in real life, where there is finite resources and finite land on Earth on which you can build stuff. Why would we mimic that into the metaverse? That was never clear to me, and therefore I'm not surprised that the value of those virtual spaces have declined so much.
You know, I heard this interesting metaphor once about the lands that are being built in the metaverse on these different platforms, right? Whether it's Decentraland or Sandbox or Voxel or wherever it is, that you can build a really cool experience, but there's no one there. It's like being on a lake in an awesome powerboat, but there's nowhere to go once you're in that powerboat on that lake. I mean, does this speak to the fact that really a lot of that hype hasn't come to fruition and that there aren't experiences that people want to be at? So if there aren't people populating these metaverses, then the real estate value is going to go down.
100%. And I think that taps into a bigger point, which is, and we talked about it last week, which is also when you look at these metaverse platform, when you look at these virtual spaces like Roblox and Fortnite in what some people will argue Web 2 versus Decentraland Sandbox, which people will refer to as Web3 because it's decentralized. That's a separate topic to discuss. Are they really decentralized? But I think the reality at the moment, and this is something I spent enormous amount of time talking to, brands and IP owners about, et cetera, which is at the moment, essentially, when we think about these metaverse platforms, really the majority of the people who interact and spend time and hours of engagement are younger generations, right? Gen Z, Gen Alpha, essentially anyone below, let's say, age 20. And so when it came to when we had the hype around, blockchain enabled world and user owned platforms and NFTs and so on and so forth, I think what people realize that at the end of the day, when you build those experiences, you need to make sure that people are there. And today, really the ocean is full of fish, but the ocean is Roblox, the ocean is Fortnite Creative, the ocean is Minecraft, where you have complex platforms that you can build engaging games and experiences that people actually want to spend time, engage, play, be together, socialize, and so on and so forth. And when you look at these other platforms, the audience is different. But the reality is that majority of people above age 30, 35 really don't have hours and hours a day to play in these spaces and spend time with their friends because you get busy as you get older. And so I think that's part of the dissonance why when you look at Roblox, Fortnite Creative, Minecraft, younger demographics, next generation consumers of the internet, and when you look at the people who were really spending a majority of the time on platform like Sandbox, Decentraland, and other NFT related spaces, it was not the same audience. These were a lot of users, a lot of people who came from very different motivations, primarily to make money, which is not a bad motivation. It's just not the same as spending time on Roblox playing games and hanging out with your friends.
Well, and obviously there is still growth in the space. Parsons School of Design has just completed a semester in which they did a collaboration with Roblox as well, and some of their fashion designers created new skins and new outfits for these digital spaces. That just seems like an entire new category of work, of monetization, of creativity that is being enabled by these platforms.
Yes, the news about Roblox starting this design program. So, just so everyone understands, really what Roblox has done, they did a partnership with the Parsons School of Design, a well known design school in New York, about essentially a course for students to create digital fashion or virtual fashion items that are powered by the Roblox platform. And I thought this is such a fascinating topic because as we think about the metaverse, I think there is a couple of elements to think about it. There is one dimension of it is the content that will be created where we experience it. We play, we engage, we socialize, so on and so forth. The other side of it is the opportunities for a whole new generation of creators to build and make content. Now, in this first iteration of these platforms, I think what we're seeing primarily is games, virtual world experiences, etc. We're also starting to see an enormous wave of individuals and sometimes small studios who create virtual goods. That could be accessories, avatar outfits. I think soon we'll be able to do even more complex things like faces and body shapes and all sorts of things that are all driven by giving people the opportunity to creatively express themselves and be who they want to be. And those technologies are enabling creators to build new forms of expression, if it's clothing or beauty, and so on and so forth. And so I found this initiative by Roblox to be fascinating because I think we're going to need millions of people who are creating content for the metaverse to really be populated with an enormous amount of content and experiences and opportunities for people to express themselves. Now, sure, there will be contribution by technologies like generative AI and AI in general that allow us to create more content, allow us to populate these worlds. I don't think AI is going to be a replacement of that human creativity. It's going to be an extension of that human creativity. And so to see Roblox taking an initiative, which I think we're going to see more and more of, I think that's fascinating. And, on the weekend, I listened to a really great podcast called Acquired, and they had a whole episode, about 3 hours, about the story of LVMH and Bernard Arnault and how they built the company over time, and you listen to all these amazing stories about, brands that are 100, 200, 300, 500 years old, anywhere from Louis Vuitton to Hermes and so on and so forth. And then I'm thinking about, wow, like, are we going to see a whole new metaverse native fashion houses, metaverse native beauty brands? Because if we're going to really see billions of people express themselves through 3D avatars in these massive virtual spaces over the next 10, 20, 30 years, it kind of makes sense that there's going to be an opportunity and a desire for people to have a job, which is essentially, I'm going to be a virtual fashion designer. I'm going to be a virtual beauty designer. And so it's great that we're starting to see this new workforce emerging. And I think we're really at the beginning of a major, major shift.
Well, that's one of the things that has been a big concern with AI, as you just mentioned, that it's going to come in and it's going to decimate jobs. Neil Khosla is famously quoted, the venture capitalist, as saying, AI is going to be able to do 80% of some of our jobs within the next 20 years. So there's this big concern that there is going to be job loss. And those who are leading this tech revolution say, look, if you look back at past revolutions, industrial revolution, et cetera, agricultural, the jobs continue. In fact, there are even more jobs that are created because of technology than are taken away. But that's hard in the moment when you're living in it and feeling like, oh man, I'm trying Chat GPT, but it can now write an essay, it can do the coding, it could do all of this work that previously only humans had been able to do. So I have 2 points that I would love you to touch on with this. One is that there was a really interesting interview that came out with Rodney Brooks, famous roboticist and computer technologist. I'd love you to touch on that because he poo-poos the concerns about ChatGPT. And then the second one is about NVIDIA and its bet on AI. We'll come back to that in a second. But let's start with Rodney Brooks.
Yeah, first, I think that it's important to keep in mind that, and I don't think anyone really knows the numbers. I'm sure there's research over research over research and numbers and charts and graphs from all the way from McKinsey to the World Bank to World Economic Forum, etc., or any other think tank that is assessing the impact of technology on the workforce. Historically speaking, it is obvious that there's going to be an impact of AI on the workforce, and sure, jobs will be eliminated. But as we look historically, I take a more deterministic point of view on the role of technology, on which, and basically what that means is, sure, there will be jobs eliminated. No one knows yet how many, and it's not going to happen that fast, right? It's like people said radiologists will be eliminated because of technology. Truck drivers will be eliminated.
Drivers, right.
Now, guess what? Now there is a shortage, right? And this is something that Rodney Brooks touched upon in the article. But essentially, many, many more new jobs will be created because AI is such a fundamental technology that is going to unlock new human endeavor and creativity and business opportunities that by definition will create new forms of jobs. So I don't subscribe to that pessimistic worldview. It's going to eliminate jobs, especially not when it comes to creativity. And so talking about what Rodney Brooks, and for those who don't know, as you've mentioned, a legendary technologist, co-founder of iRobot, the robotics company that everyone came to know as our friends that vacuum our floor in the house, that ultimately got acquired by Amazon. And basically in a really interesting interview by one of the most thoughtful technologists out there in the last 20 something years, he's basically saying that we are a couple of things. Number one, he's saying we are exaggerating with the value of ChatGPT and GPT-4 as a technology. He basically claims that it's great, it's better than what we had, but it's not general artificial intelligence. And the other thing he's saying is that with that in mind, let's also be a bit less pessimistic on how it's going to take over the world and completely change. And if you listen to Squawk Box on CNBC every morning, like every day they would talk about 50% chances that AI will ruin the world. So I think what I like about what he said was, let's all calm down. He literally said that, right? It's like, let's all calm down and take a moment to digest the value that GPT-4 and ChatGPT brings, which is it's definitely much better than what we had. And then let's also just calm down and make sure that we understand it's not happening tomorrow. And that leads me to a bigger point, which I think we touched upon a few times, which is We had NFTs in 2021, and everyone thought, oh my God, crypto is taking over the world. Every coin is the new dollar. People lost their houses. A lot of people made a lot of money, only to realize that, crypto is interesting, but Bitcoin is not really going to replace the dollar anytime soon. Maybe in the future, maybe there's a chance it has a bigger role to play than just a currency that provides some store value. But really, it's not going to change the economic and financial system tomorrow. Then we had in 2022 the Metaverse, right? Mark Zuckerberg changed Facebook's name to Meta in October 2021, and 2022 was the year of the Metaverse. And everyone thought, we're in the Metaverse, it's happening, it's now, let's do it. Only to realize it's not here, it's going to take time. Sure, we have great Metaverse prototype environment. Roblox is definitely the closest as an ecosystem to what a Metaverse could be in a very small, isolated place. And now we have generative AI, and everyone, oh my God, AI is here. Artificial general intelligence is finally here. We're on the go. Let's do it. And so I totally subscribe to what Rodney Brooks is saying, which is let's all take a bit, take a moment to calm down. Let's realize that it's not happening tomorrow. It's definitely not happening now. But there are definitely fundamental things that are happening in technology at the moment that are really over the next 5, 10, 15, 20, definitely beyond that, are going to change the course of humanity, the course of what businesses are being built, and the role of technology in our everyday life. That is definitely something that is happening, but I don't think anyone has an understanding really or a accurate prognosis on when exactly that shift is happening. So I joined Rodney Brooks in saying, let's all, calm down and just focus on doing things that are actually valuable, that create value for people, for businesses, for consumers, and keep an eye on the fact that it takes time until those technology really become what we want them to become.
But we are seeing some of these technologies superpower businesses. I mean, NVIDIA's stock has just soared in the last week. Some of the earnings reports have come in. Last Thursday, it soared more than 24%, and there was talk about whether or not it would join the $1 trillion club. And Yon, as of today, you tell me it is.
Today in the morning, they passed it. Indeed.
And NVIDIA's chief executive officer, Jensen Huang, said when generative AI came along, it triggered a killer app for this computing platform that's been in preparation for some time. So how do you see these converging? And do you think that NVIDIA is sort of a precursor to what we're going to see across the computer sector? Do you think that technology is going to be going through a new boom? Because right now, I think there's a lot of fear and uncertainty in play there, right? With all of the layoffs that have happened in recent months, we've, tens of thousands of layoffs that we've been seeing. What does NVIDIA's growth sort of show about where the industry is going?
The first thing that is so interesting to mention about NVIDIA is that the work that we're seeing NVIDIA doing now, this is things that they started about 15 years ago. The work that NVIDIA is doing today, the reason why NVIDIA is trading at about $1 trillion market cap, and Intel, the legendary Intel, is trading at about $118 billion, almost a tenth of NVIDIA's market cap, which is think about it. Intel, really the company that ushered the personal computing revolution, is left in the dust versus NVIDIA, who 15 years ago was a fraction of Intel. Look how much has changed. And I think we need to all appreciate just the length of time it takes to build and make bets on big technology changes. And you have to salute Jensen Huang and the team at NVIDIA for the choices they've made, which were very unpopular. It was so unpopular that when they made some of their architecture changes and making a bet on what AI could be 15 years down the line, it was so out of the question that analysts didn't even ask about it in quarterly earnings. It was so not a priority, but for them, it was a big change. And I think today you see them reaping the benefits of their bets, which was a thoughtful consideration of where the future is going, and also giving up on mobile. Also, people forget NVIDIA is not involved at all in the mobile space. They lost it to Qualcomm, right, and ARM, which is why they wanted to buy ARM, and ultimately the regulators in Europe didn't let them do that. And so we're now seeing NVIDIA essentially a company that started with computer graphics to power the evolution of the gaming industry. We then saw how their powerful GPUs serve crypto mining in the 2018 to the 2022 hype of crypto. And then we see how over time they also build incredible strength in GPUs and technologies that power autonomous vehicles. Of course, robotics as well. They are involved in the metaverse with their omniverse environment and digital twins. And now everyone understands that their GPUs are powerful and are designed from bottom up to serve the new wave of AI applications. And so you're looking at a company that is really positioned well to be one of the most important technology companies in the next 50 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Yon, as we wrap up here, what are you looking at for the week ahead? I know AWE is happening in Santa Clara. What's on your mind and on your plate coming up?
Well, on my mind, and I think on everyone's mind, including yours, because we talked about it last week as well, is next week, June 5th, supposedly Apple is going to introduce their mixed reality or first mixed reality device. So that is big on my mind. I'm going to work super hard this week on what we do with Super Social. We've got a lot going on, which is really exciting. And then it's going to be the weekend, and we're going to come back on Monday super pumped for the Apple WWDC. And really, I'm just super curious fundamentally about what is really the product they're launching. Put aside the hype, put aside what it means for the wider category. We're talking about one of probably the most innovative company in consumer technology over the last 25 years. I just want to see what is really going to be the product that they're launching. How is it going to look? How is it going to feel? Every time they come out with something, it's always the Apple Watch or the iPad, the iPhone, of course, and then all of the preceding generations of the iPhone, the iMac, the colorful. So every time they come, it's great. And this might be the first time in a very long time that Apple is facing skepticism from the wider ecosystem about their product they're launching. And therefore, I'm just so incredibly curious to see what exactly the product that they're launching, how fun it is, how intuitive it is, all the rest, the price, the content on the device, et cetera, to me, these are all secondary. I just really want to see how fun and innovative this product is going to be. And that's what I'm looking forward to next week.
I want to pick up on just one word you said there, which is supposedly. They're supposedly going to be dropping this, which I hear, right? That sort of hedging. But really, at this point, with all of the hype, with all that's been said, do you think that there's any chance they're not going to release it?
Yes, I think there is a chance because no one really knows if they are actually going to launch it. I know this is probably the closest everyone think we're getting to Apple releasing the product, but we've been there before. People thought in the last WWDC last year they're going to release it, and they didn't. But definitely it seems like with all the Bloomberg articles and everyone really anticipating, it probably will be a huge surprise if they don't. But hey, they got a few more days. They need to believe that the product is ready for prime time. It's Apple. It's WWDC. It's probably the one single technology event that is almost as popular as a live sports event, right? Where people actually watching it. So there's probably a small chance that they're not going to release it, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm ready. I cannot wait to put my hands on whatever it is they're launching. That's how big it is. And, to see how it really impacts the ecosystem. And I think what certainly will happen is if they do launch something next week, it will create a fresh and accelerated, renewed conversation about the metaverse, about VR, about AR, and so on and so forth, which I think is going to be great. And hopefully they will launch something that will sustain that excitement and propel the category to see more innovation coming in over the next couple of years. Because if their device is great, the content ecosystem that will be built around it is going to be gigantic and will definitely push the category and the creators forward, even if it's not going to be a complete mainstream product in the next 2 to 3 years.
Well, I cannot wait to talk with you about it on Monday next week. Thanks, Yon.
Thanks, Priya.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Into the Metaverse. We hope you learned a lot and explored new aspects of the metaverse.